Okay, good morning. After the war, the 4 kings and the 5 kings, source 1, after these events, the word of Hashem came to Avram in a vision saying, "Fear not, Abraham, I am a shield for you. Your reward is very great." And Avram said, "My Lord Hashem Elohim, what can you give me? I'm childless. Domestic Eliezer is inheriting me." Suddenly the word of Hashem came to him saying, "That one will not inherit you. Only him that shall come forth from within you shall inherit you." And he took him outside and said, "Habait now, gaze now toward the heavens and count the stars if you're able to count them." And he said to him, "Kol yezarecha, so shall your offspring be." And we're the stars. We're the stars that he saw. Like each one of us is a star. We have to look around, shining. Okay. There's a lot to be said on all of this, but that's not where we're going today. Here's where we're going to try to go. B'siyata d'shmaya. Vehemin b'Hashem vayachshaveha lo staka. And he trusted in Hashem, and he reckoned to him as righteousness. He promises the land, but ma'ida kerashenu, he says, how am I know? It's going to guarantee we'll get the land. But children, so if you take a look, and again, I want to work with the Hebrew, because the English, anytime you explain, you translate, and I'm going to show you a case of this right here. Let's take a look at the Hebrew in 5, in the bold. Vehemin b'Hashem, and he believed in Hashem. Clearly, who's that referring to? Avraham Avinu. Good. That's what you think, but we'll get there later. And he believed in Hashem. Now, here's the operative phrase for today. Vayechshaveha lo staka. And he considered it to him a righteousness. Who are the pronouns here? And Avra and Hashem, vayechshavehu lo staka, and Avra and Hashem considered Abraham's belief as righteousness. You take a look at Rabbi Art Scroll, and you see that's how he translates it. How do I know that? What does he do? He puts an uppercase H. And he reckoned it to him as righteousness. By putting the uppercase H in he's referring to as Hashem. Do you see how anytime you translate, you're going to be what? Interpreting. And that's the challenge. That's why it's best to learn it in the original, right? In the original. This approach is the approach of Rashi. Rashi says this, source number 3. Rashi explains the verse is describing Hashem's appreciation of Avram's faith. And he believed in Hashem. He did not ask for a sign that Hashem would fulfill his promise to give him son. And he regarded it as righteousness for him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu reckoned his faith. Avram placed in him in his merit as righteousness for him. On this, we have the obvious question. Here, you're telling me that this is a big deal that Avraham Avinu believed he was going to have a child? This is the Ramban's question. Why should Avraham not believe in the trustworthy God when he is his prophet? Of course he believed. He's talking to him. And I have a little secret to tell you, says the Ramban. He threw himself into the Ur Kasdim, into the fiery furnace because he believed. You're telling me, it's a wonderful thing that he believed. My language, not the Ramban, duh. Right? What is going on here? A grosser thing that you believe. It doesn't seem to make sense. So what we're going to do is examine level 1, how to answer this. That, no, it is a big deal that he believed. That will be level 1. Level number 2 will be the Ramban's approach himself, which will be a different approach. And then level number 3 is going to look at this from a whole different perspective, because that's where my fun is in life, to turn things in many different directions, because that's really the complexity of Torah, that you can understand it on what? Many different, and further, what begs the question, which is what the Chayei Moshe, we're not giving his answer, but I want to hear the question, is he says in 5, Till now, the Torah doesn't focus in on this maila, this level of emunah in Hashem. What's going on here that we're focusing in on this aspect of emunah? What's the dynamics in this story? So that's where we're going. In order to answer these questions, and as every Shira, there's complexity on so many levels. What is emunah about? Ve'emin ba'Hashem. In order to appreciate that this is something that is, so we need to step back and define our terms. Ve'emin ba'Hashem. And, it's like this has nothing to do with anything. It's like I had a class with girls yesterday, and they were asking that class the question, if God knows what you're going to choose, then where's the free choice? Yeah, it's a classic question. And I once heard an answer, which even these girls stopped from their, like this was their stance. And they said, the way we use terminology cannot be the same in regard to God. I'm using the word knowledge in the way I understand it, and this is the way Hashem's knowledge. If Hashem knows, then that takes away my free choice. But the word knowledge, like Vayeda Adam Erachav Eshto, has many, I know what you're talking about, I know, has many different understandings of I know. So when I say God knows, it's not the same understanding of when I say what? I know. So this is what we have to understand, that when we're talking about ideas, and Avram believed in and trusted in Hashem. See, Rabbi Artsgold uses trusted, right? Again, you hear what I'm saying? Vehemin, does it mean trust? Does it mean believe? Translations are interpretations. If you got nothing else from today, this is what you're walking away with. Handle with care. Because if you have questions on a pasuk, it very often is not the pasuk, but the translation. Does that make any sense? Yeah, it made sense to me. Okay, so let's talk about ve'emin. What does it mean to believe, to trust? So here, Rav Hirsch is the best. Emunah is the essence, source 7, is the essence of Judaism. But to define emunah as belief is to empty the term of its true content. Belief is an act of the mind, sometimes only an opinion. Every believer thinks his beliefs are true, based on the reasoning and assurances of someone else. Nowadays, religions identify with belief, and belief is thought to be the essence of religion. A religious person believes in principles that cannot be grasped by the intellect. Thus, religion has been divorced from life and converted into doctrines. And he goes on, and he says, however, to put one's faith in the words of another is never expressed as hemin be, vehemin ba Hashem, but rather vehemin le, vehem lo yaminu li. Emunah be is not theoretical faith, the subordination of one's own mind to the mind of another. Here it goes, this is the key. And for those who have highlighters, this is the highlightable line. I teach with highlighters for every girl. Rather, Hemin b'Hashem means to rely upon God in theory and in practice, to take strength in Him, and to follow Him. Hemin b'Hashem means, and this is intense, my friends, and we have to hold it, to put one's trust in God, to be in God's hand like clay in the potter's hand. A maimin casts his burden on God. God is his fashioner, educator, supporter, and guide, all with capital letters. In short, a maimin entrusts himself entirely to Hashem. Now, we're not playing with linguistics here. We're playing with a very deep idea. If I'm just believing in Hashem, it means that, now I know God exists. To really be a maimin means I give myself over to Hashem when I understand it and when I don't. Let's take this a little bit further. It's heavy, so hold with me. The Das Torah, Rabbi Yerucham, he describes emuna, I'm in the bracket, Ela ha'emuna hi hadvekus bo yitbarach, shu ma'amin bo, umitabek bo yitbarach b'emuna. It's the same thing as Rav Hirsch, just in a little bit of a different language. Emuna is dvekus, of completely clinging to Hashem, completely giving myself over. And again, I love this imagery. We say it on Kol Nidre night, yeah? Kinei kachomer. Do we all start singing it now? Kinei kachomer b'yad hayotzer. It's one of the most moving parts of Yom Kippur. Would you all say that? We are in his hands. And if any of you here have ever worked with pottery, we could have some very artistic people here. You know, imagine being the clay, just for a moment, then we'll step out of being a clay. You're pounding me, you're banging me. Could you let go? And now you're putting me in this furnace? Oh my gosh, it is so hot. And now you're painting me with these fumes? I'm gonna pass out. Like silver, the hands of a silversmith.
And the imagery is that he holds it close to the fire and brings it away from the fire.
Brings it close to the fire, and I was asked to repeat for Zoomland, for cameraland. He brings it close to the fire and back from the fire.
And there was a group of ladies who was seeking to understand this concept. They didn't understand it, so they went to a silversmith. And they're watching him purify the silver. And they said to him, how do you know when it's the purity that you wanted?
Right, so this group of women watched the silversmith and wanted to know, to the silversmith, how do you know that moment that the impurities are taken out? And he responds?
He responds, that's easy, when I can see my reflection in it.
When I see my reflection in it, then I know it's purified.
And the image of the Mashlim is that Hashem is holding you close to the fire. He's challenging you.
He's challenging you, but when he sees his image or brings out that divine image,
I think about every time I come to Yom Kippur and
yeah, that imagery, yeah.
hear that.
One of the hostages' mothers received a phone call from Hamas. I don't know if everybody heard it or not. And he told her, you're not doing enough, you have to pressure, pick up more, go out, do this, do that. And said, whatever happens to my son, to the hands of God. And you know what? Whatever happens to you is also in the hands of God.
Right.
So that's
That's-
the kind of vacancy you're talking about here.
Right, right.
Not everybody's there, honestly.
Right, so again, this Hamas who called the hostage's mother, why aren't you doing enough for your son? And her response is, he's in the hands of God, and so are you. And it's so easy to what? Not easy. It's one level to say it, and it's one level to live it. And feel it.
Really on that kind of.
Yeah. Now, yes.
And a lot of hostages have said that during the worst
Yes.
times, they connected with Hashem.
Right, the hostages themselves felt that level of connection that was, and they had never experienced this before, 100%. Okay, my friend, let's take this idea. I want to go one step further. And this piece I found to be, obviously I cut and paste. At the same time, this piece I found to be so super profound. Let it speak for itself. This is Golden Apples, Lopiansky, from Greater Washington, Yeshiva Greater Silver Spring. You know what I'm talking about, yeah, okay. He says there are people who are challenged in belief. Do I believe, do I not believe? That's one level. But let's talk about everyone sitting here. We're all maminim, we're all believers. But people who are already, I'm in 10, committed have a different challenge regarding Amunah. The struggle of the person who's already a believer, listen closely, is a much deeper emotional struggle. A person, listen to this. You are listening, but I mean right? To listen, that's what we're talking about, nuances of word. A person naturally and instinctively craves stability and surety. We are physical beings who are part of a natural order. Nature is first and foremost regular. The laws of nature are immutable. When I get home today, I want to see everything in its place that I left it earlier this morning. Do you know what I mean by that? I like predictability. I like my car starting when I get into the car. Predictability. I like my car to be there when that's already a step. Yeah, okay. Emunah demands that we live a life that is inherently irregular. Wow. Yeah, Emunah demands that we live a life that is inherently irregular. We are constantly measured and tested, and Hashem responds to our deeds and misdeeds. We are challenged with events that may be difficult in order that we develop further. The ultimate test of Emunah then, here it goes, my friends, is to leave the comfort zone of nature and the natural. It requires sacrificing this primal instinct for a chance to grow out of that confinement. Isn't it gorgeous? Yeah, it is beautiful, yeah. Emunah is the faculty that moves a person to look beyond the comfort zone of as is. It's dynamic. Our relationship with the Ribono Shel Olam is dynamic. And because our relationship with Hashem is dynamic, our lives are dynamic. And that, on the one hand, is so uncomfortable. I just want everything to be regular. On the other hand, it moves us into an entirely different zone, noting that wherever I am and whatever I go through, I'm being held. And I'm not going through this alone. He brings here, in source 11, with a double bracket, the beginning of the Parsha. It says, Lech Lecha, go, El haaretz asher areka, to the land that I'm going to show you. The only problem is, he what? He doesn't tell him the land. And Rashi tells us to give him reward, I'll call psia. For every step of the way, he gets reward. Rashi is in effect describing the true nature of Emunah. This is the first pasuk. This is the first Jew. This is our lives. Lech lecha, go. Where are you going? I don't know. You don't know yet. But you're going with? We're going with Hashem. If a person at least knows where he's going, there's some sense of the comfortably known. All of us here, if we have this ability, use Waze. Do you know what I mean? We want to know, what's the best way to get here? You know,
What's the destination?
And what's the destination? My kids, you know, in the old days, when my kids were growing up, if they had to take a bus to school, they went to the bus stop and they waited. Today, what do? They call Kalkav, and my kids say to me, I say, you going down to the bus? Kalkav says it's coming in 3 minutes. So in 2 minutes, I'll run down to the bus. Okay, it saves some time. You want to argue it. That's not the point. The point is, it's a little bit too predictable. And there's a challenge in that. Could you hear that? Because life, my friends, is what? But when every step carries a question mark of to where, then only a person who senses that he's walking alongside Hashem can make the journey into that unknown. Yes, ma'am?
Is there an element of trust here that is going to be discussed, or how does that work into? I don't know.
I think
because I've had this experience, I really have, and it transforms me to where I feel the words came out like 360 degrees of trust.
it's 360 degrees of trust, 100%. The question then is, what do we do with that in our lives? And that's a very person.
We keep listening.
We keep listening for
Follow
sure.
directions.
And follow, that's it. We keep listening, follow directions. Yeah. It's a different type of life. It is. It's not easy. And we're raising ideas here, but each one of these needs to be what? Explored and deepened on its own level. When Ribbono Shel Olam meets Moshe Rabbeinu at the burning bush, he says to him, what's your name? Because the name is what? Essence. What does he answer him? Eka asher eka. I will be that which I will be. That's the answer. The answer is that Ek has the understanding in the end of 12 that Hashem has not defaulted to a regular natural order. I will be means that things to come are not a continuation of what is, but rather something new and very possibly unanticipated. There's an ongoing hashgacha whereby Hashem keeps revealing himself and leading us anew each step of the way. The challenge is, if we were to understand why is this happening, if we were to know, well, what's the larger picture here, then I would get it. But right now, I don't get it. That's where, as you mentioned correctly, the trust comes from. And every one of us sitting in this room in different areas of our lives have felt this in a most profound way. The way I would describe it most poignantly, and I think we did this last year, but we're looking at it in a different context now. When Avraham Avinu, the Medrash says, comes to Eretz Yisrael, right, he has that vision of a palace that's burning, and he says, there must be a master of this palace. You know, palace doesn't burn by itself, whatever that may mean. Bira dolekas, a bira that's lit up. So the Chidushei Arim in 13 in the asterisk finds a deeper meaning in the Medrash. Dolekes may be interpreted not only as burning, but pursuing. Right? You see this by Yaakov and Lavan, that he pursued him. Thus, it means that Avraham Avinu saw a world that was in hot pursuit of the beyond. This is not a mere recognition of the facts in front of the person's nose, but rather an awareness that there is a beyond. And that's the emunah of Avraham Avinu, who pursued God beyond the natural order of the world, above what reality appeared to be, through uncertainty and lack of clarity. And this is the emunah he has bequeathed to us. And the way the Birkas Mordechai says it, and we'll just end with this part, with this idea, is where our knowledge ends, where I can no longer see with clarity, that's when emunah begins. And it's hard for us rational people. At the same time, when we live our lives seeing the divine providence over and over again in our lives, it's a reminder to us that we are not walking alone. And we need to put those experiences in our bank account. You had a question?
No, I just wanted to comment that in some ways, everything you're talking about for me is like the 12 days of the Iranian thing.
The 12 days of the Iranian war.
Right, because a lot of people have a Lecha or a mamad, and I live in the center of town, and we had to go 2 floors to a bunker with like 300 people and babies and dogs and
Oh my gosh.
and girls that are like barely dressed and whatever. And it seemed to me like we never knew what was going to happen. We never knew when it was going to happen. And yet we had to believe that we were going to be, that Hashem was going to take us to the right place. We were going to be okay. And then every single day we would hear something happen after we came out, right? But really everything that the potential to like blow us off the face of the map just didn't happen.
Right.
And we had to believe every single time.
So let me just echo what you're saying. Us living, having the schus of living in Eretz Yisrael over and over again with Iran, not just that 12-day war, it was previous as well. It's really living this idea of God, we don't know what the target is, when the target is, and where the target is. And the potential that they have, on paper at least, is very scary. And the flip side is us holding on, knowing that we are in his hands. We've been living that on a global level very much, 100%. Now, let's get back to our parsha here. Let's not lose it because the time is running on me, which it always does. Okay, so Avraham Avinu is ready to live this level of beyond this. That's how I call Emunah. That, in my mind, maybe that should have been the title, Beyond the Beyond. It's so hard to do a title. Beckoning Beyond. That would have been a nice title. I like that. Doesn't matter. That's not your problem right now. Refocus, Shira. I'm refocused. Good. That's good. It's healthy. Why do we mention his Emunah here? I mean, I would think that this pasuk should be by the Akedah. Yeah, or in similar types of levels. The promise that you're going to have a child, that's... So I want to look at it on two levels. I hope you didn't knock this too bad. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So I'm a little bit off-centered. I've been off-centered my whole life. I shouldn't say that. Okay, it's you need to have some, whoa. Okay, it's fine. I don't care. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I want to look at this on two different ways of looking at this. One is source 17.
Source number what?
17, otherwise known as Tov. 17 is Tov. Here the Torah is discussing a much greater level of Emunah. Abraham believed in Hashem that he would bear children when all of nature belied such a possibility. He and his wife were well past their childbearing years, and moreover, Chazal tell us that Sarah was physically lacking the organs necessary to bear children. The scientific impossibility of Hashem's promise did not sway Avram in the least from a completely believing what he was told. Why here? What was the greatness that Hashem said, "V'echshaveh lo staka"? If someone is telling you something that is naturally impossible, and you say, okay, great. You don't say, Hashem, the statistics are, the reality is. No. What? Kol yezarecha. His wife can't have a child. Ve'min b'Hashem. Okay, great. Thank you, Hashem. The greatness of Avraham Avinu was he wasn't stuck in the natural. If you're not stuck in the natural, so then you can be able to have the Emunah in Hashem when life is not natural. I want to go further than this. The Higayon Levav in source number 20 points out, I'm in the double underline. He points out two things. Let's do the bracket first. Lo hamunar tal'it ela bitachon hayom yomi. Shavtacha lokit mitkayemet lamrot gilo v'lamrot shovrim yom v'od yom chodashim v'shanim. לפי זה אין דברים אלו הערה המתאימה לעיתוי זה, כי אם הבחנה אלוקית כללית המסכמת את חייו של אברהם. Notice here, Gion Levav, we're not just talking about this moment, the promise was brought to fruition. We're talking about the overall approach Avraham Avinu had to the childbearing. Could you just check the camera, because it just got shifted a little bit accidentally, just for the fun of it. I love when they move cameras, you know, when you're watching, you feel like you're on a ship. It works? Okay, great. Okay, that's cool. Hashem tells him at the age of 75, Brisbane of Sarim, you're going to have a child. Well, if God would come to me and say, you're going to have a child, then I'm going to start counting 9 months. 25 years later, the promise happens. Ve'min b'Hashem, says here Gion Levav, it's not just a one-moment aspect of belief. It's holding on to that belief even when you're seeing day by day that it's what? Not happening. If after 25 years something doesn't happen, I don't know about you, my friends, but most people would what? Give up. Ve'emin b'Hashem is a description of Avram Avinu's steadfastness in this belief. And he says this is our challenge at the end of 16. Holodat Yitzchak hina tolodah shel hatalich shel amuna. It's not a one moment amuna, it's a talich, it's a process. כך גם בחייו של כל יחיד ויחיד תהליך ארוך של התמודדות עם המונה סופה להנחיל ישועה. It might not happen right here and now. It might be a process. We have to hold on. And I want to take this one step further. And this is 18, the OUisrael. I'm going to do it outside. Avram Avinu is told, finally, this child appears on planet Earth. However many years, you want to say 13 years, he was 37, whenever the Akedah happened. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avram Avinu, you know that child that I promised you, Ki Yitzchak Yikar Lev Chazar? I want you to kill him. I want you to slaughter him. Vayashkein Avram Babok, Avram Avinu wakes up in the morning and goes to do what Hashem says. But hold on a second. It doesn't make sense. He's going to be the future. He's not yet married, has no children, and now I'm taking him from this world? He doesn't blink. You gave me a promise for children. I don't know how it's going to work itself out, but it's not my It's not my issue. Yeah. You're in charge. Rabbosai, to be able to give up control, the clay in the hands of the potter, is the world of the beyond. Anything can happen. And again, I'm just going to say this one more time, and I know I've said it over and over again. You said it, I know. It's hard for us. It's hard for us because we like to be what? In control. Is that what you said? Yeah.
And we have to be in control.
And we have to be in control to the best of our what? Ability. That's what we have to do. We have to establish. We go out to work. And at the same time to realize that what? I'm not in control. Let's take this practically for a few minutes, and then I want to do two other aspects on this, and then we'll get to the two other levels. The Chochmah Matzpun, quoting the Rav Chaskel Levenstein, Zatzal, 22. Tachlid hadam lakir baro b'chol rega v'rega. Our job in this world is to recognize Hashem at every moment. L'chadesh et hakarat halev v'lekabel mashmur chadasha b'emunah. Our job in this world, and again, in my language, where's Waldo? Where's Waldo? You know that? 3 people here know where's Waldo. You do. You've never heard of Where's Waldo? You're not missing much. It's being... Oh, okay. It's being able to find a figure among many figures. That's the idea. You're not missing much. The idea is, lahavdil eluf alfei avdelos, obviously, is to find the Ribono Shalom every single situation in our lives, that clarity, that awareness that he's here. I flipped the page. And that's why we have mitzvos. He says the point of mitzvos is to connect us. Is v'kavanat in the asterisk, the Ramban, kol ha-mitzvot shenamin be'elokeinu v'nodeh elav. To believe in Hashem, to give thanks to Him. And this is why we're on planet Earth, that we're here to be able to recognize Hashem in everything that happens. And the challenge is not to, at the age of 12 or 13, to say, I'm a bar bat mitzvah, I believe, but in every moment of our lives to rejuvenate, to lechadesh this feeling of belief, this feeling of connection with Ribono Shalom. And every time I see it again, it brings me deeper, it brings me closer. You know, just to give you no example is silly or simple, but to give you a silly and simple example, I saw that, and this is our lives. I'm just sharing this with you, it's on my head. For whatever reason, I decided I wanted to buy a wok. So I went Thursday night. So I told my daughter I want to buy one. She said, you know, Ima, there's a new store open in Ramat Beit Shemesh Dalet that would probably have what you're looking for. Because I didn't want aluminum, you know. So I go to the store. I go with her Thursday night. I was exhausted, but I said, okay, I'm going to go. I wanted to cook something for Shabbos. I go into the store, and it was an opening of a 60% sale. And instead of getting a wok, I got a deep frying pan with the cover. But I got a deep frying pan with the cover. It was 450 shekels. I paid 100 shekels. And the sale was over the next day. Now, okay, that is a silly story that I saved 350 shekels. But you know what, my friends? And this is the book. If you haven't gotten it, this is it. Hamechin mitzadei gaver. Hashem leads us in every way of our lives. And we know that when things are challenging, we're like, where are you, God? When things are good, we have to be able to embrace this reality. Notes the TORAH. I have to move a little bit faster. Rav Gamliel in source 26. He says, Yachol Yehudi ladat shas uposkim. A Jew can know all of the Gemara, at Kol HaTorah Kula, all of Torah, v'afliyot mahader gadol b'mitzvos, and be the most, scrupulous in mitzvos. Kala k'bachamura mamish. Double underline. Afa pikein ein lo shayachut im ha'amuna v'afilu tipat amuna ein lo, and he's missing completely, or she, amuna. If you ask them, do you believe? What will they answer? Of course. Do you see this translated in one's life? Whoa. And the example that he gives in 27, a person goes to work and really believes that the work is what is giving him or her their parnasa. A person, Lolenu, is sick and believes that the doctor is the one healing them. Now, you're right, Rebbitzin. Do you need to go to work? Yes. Do you need to go to a doctor? Yes. Absolutely.
And can you ask Hashem to show you the way to get what you want?
Now, can you? And you must, at the same time, say, Hashem, this is the work I'm doing. At the same time, I know the parnasa that I need is going to come from you. I don't know. I think it's coming from what? Work. I think the refuah is coming from the doctor. But a real maimin knows, don't be fooled. Few questions. First.
Not a question, just a comment. Can you imagine if you get to this point, or if you incorporate this in your life, the calm and the simcha that you have?
Right. Excellent. So when a person is able to really integrate this, it's kigmul la'imo. It's a complete calm knowing I'm in the hands of Hashem.
So Sarah, and we learn she dies when she hears. So then puts into question, did she have lack of emunah?
Good. Excellent question. So, Yeshika, so when Sari Menu dies, the Medrash says when she hears what? That Yitzchak Avinu almost was almost killed. So now you have to understand, well, what does it mean that Sarah Imenu died at that moment? Is it about lack of emunah? Or is it it's an excellent question, a whole different story going on there of, I think it's a Chasam Sofer, if I'm not mistaken, who says that would not really reflect. That's not really what Chazal are saying. Rather, what she said was, I wish I too could reach such a level of connection to Hashem. And Hashem responded to her by taking her soul. So you're right. It's a good question, and that's why that story has to be understood, because Sari Menu is kulam shavim l'tova. All her life was good, even at the last moment. So it needs to be understood. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to go back to the prior comment. My husband practiced critical care medicine, and when he would go to the say, may God give me the ability to heal.
Wow. Let me just repeat that for the camera, because that was special.
And the impact on the patients was unbelievable.
So as a critical care doctor, before seeing each patient, he davened, may Hashem give me the ability to
But he would say it
to the patient, to be able to heal you. That's it. That's living what we're talking about. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And he says, Shekama shivdoka adam et atzmo yiresh avodah le'emuna hi l'chol hachayim mamish. This is something we have to work on at all times. And even the way we talk, this is what I'm doing, this is how I've accomplished this. Whoa! B'chaste Hashem, with the help of Hashem. It's mamish, it's the ABCs of our lives. Just to end this first level, part one of this first level, Rav Uri Weisblum, Shlita, in Haras HaTfilah, in source 29, points out, we begin our davening with the phrase, Hashem sasai tiftach, ufi yagid tilasecha. Hashem, the name of Hashem we use is Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, Adoshem. So he brings down, every name of Hashem has different meanings. The Maharsha points out that the Yud Kei Vav Kei is about Hashem exists. The Adnot is, bracket, Al Adnuto v'yucholto l'shano k'zeirot u'marech hashamayim, that Hashem can change things in this world, that things aren't static. Why do I begin Hashem Sfasai Tiftach? To remind me before I daven, know you're talking to a being that anything is possible. Anything can change. And the example that I've given over and over again, and it's an example because it's so real to my life, it's one of those moments that are etched in your mind, that you don't forget, of being told by a top doctor in Mount Sinai Hospital, top fertility specialist. He looked at me and my husband and said, I give you a 3% chance of ever having kids, and 3% is high. And this little granddaughter just flipped over at 2 months yesterday. You can give me all the percentages you want in the world. Hashem sasai tiftach. Anything can change. It's the world of the beyond. It's putting ourselves completely in Hashem's hands. Now, I just want to make mention, I'm not doing it inside because I've ran out of time before I've even started. That should be the name of my next book, Running Out of Time Before I've Started. Only you guys would buy the book, though, because no one else really would appreciate that. The Chaver Rosh Yeshiva, the Sam Derech, flips it around in source 30, and he says, not that it was something impossible and that was the greatness of the belief. He says, to believe when something is difficult is different than when you believe in good news. If someone is going to tell me good news, what do I say? Great! To have emunah, to go into the Kivshan Ha'esh, whoa. Akeda, whoa. The Chiddush here, and this is what he says, and I was very impacted by this. This is why I'm stretching myself to share this. He says, this is the Chiddush from Yisrael Salanter. I want us to listen to this for life. If a person works on a midah, I work on my anger, I work on my patience, I work on whatever it is, on my asher yatzar, it doesn't matter what I'm working on. And I really work hard. And l'fum sarah agra, my reward is according to the effort I put in. I get a lot of reward. Now, what happens when it becomes a no-brainer in my life? I'm no longer angry. My asher yatzar flows. Do I now get less reward? The answer is no. The original reward for all the effort I put in stays with me throughout my experience with this aspect. That's the Chiddush. Ve'min ba'Hashem, when here, again, different than we just saw, didn't take that much emunah, ve'echshaver lo tzedakah, he still gets the same amount of, I call it brownie points, these are my language, as when he had to struggle to reach this level. Wow. And I'll just make one more point, then we'll get to the Ramban. And I'm doing this point because I want to share this email that someone from this chevra sent me. The Siftei Dat brings the Sfas Emes, 31 and 32, and he says the following. Avraham Avinu said to Hashem, Hashem, I'll tell you what my issue is. I don't have a child who all of my hard work will be a model for them in serving you. And Hashem responds to him, this is really intense, everything that you're doing is really not, I can't use the word important. In my mind, it's the peel of the orange. I know this idea may not be so appealing, but aren't you happy I mentioned it? No, I guess you're not. What really is about your life is when you have a bris milah and you have a child. That's really where the impact is going to be. So Avraham Avinu, I want you to have this same Mesiras Nefesh and all of your hard work, but no, it's really not what really counts. But I want you to go on doing it anyway. Well, if someone told me that, what would I say? Wake me up. And Avraham says, no. Even though this if not be the real impactful aspect of my life, it's still going to build me. And I'm still going to go ahead. And what we see from the Siftei Dat is that chinuch is not just about what you transmit to your children, it's about what you live for your children. And I just want to mention this email that, again, you may have seen this email. I was blown away by it. So let me just share this with you, and then we'll quickly do the last two levels. There was a Rabbi Moshe Dov Heber from Yeshiva Ketana of Waterbury. You've all seen this? Oh, not everyone, so I'm going to share it. He had 11-year-old boys, Yeshiva Ketana, and he asked them, what was your favorite moment of Yontif, of Sukkot? So, great flags, playing with my husband. That was wrong, Shira. Playing with my cousins, eating in the sukkah. And one boy wrote, seeing the hostages come home. So he calls over Yehuda and he says, you really mean that? He said, yes. He says, is this something you talk about a lot at home? He said, my mother hasn't worn one of her rings in 2 years. Later, he calls the mother, and she said, that's correct. It's a small, silent reminder that part of our nation is missing. A reminder to feel the pain of another. On the refrigerator is a handwritten sign that reads, what did you do today to bring them home? And beneath it, a careful count of the days since the hostages were taken. There's also a picture of one particular hostage someone in their family feels connected to, someone they've been davening for by name. When the videos began to circulate of the hostages being freed, Yehuda's mother gathered her children and said softly, watch, these are your tefillos. Not words, not speeches. It's a home that breathes tefillah. It's a mother who turns pain into prayer. It's a child whose favorite Yom Tov memory is seeing another Yid return home. Because in the end, the most powerful lessons aren't taught, they're caught. Wow. That's absolutely stunning. You could read this over and over again and never tire of hearing this. Okay, my friends, we have 10 minutes, 9 on the clock. You ready to put your seatbelts on? Fasten them. Here we go. Says the Ramban. Again, we'll do a lot outside. Va'anachon be'inai in 34. Ki yomar shemin b'Hashem v'chashav ki b'tzidko shel kodshebrichu yitain lo zera al kol panim lo b'tzidkas Avraham u'b'scharo af al pi shamar lo schar be'ma'od. How do you read this pasuk? Going back to the original pasuk, they mean b'Hashem. He believed in Hashem, and the continuation of the pasuk is about Avraham Avinu. Vayachshaveha lo staka, and Avraham Avinu attributed the ability to have emunah and the ability that he will be blessed to have a child. He attributed it to Hashem and not to his good deeds. You're telling me I'm going to have a child. I could pat myself on the back and say what? I'm summarizing the next page. I could pat myself on the back and say what? Yeah, or costume and this nisayon and Lech Lecha. Of course, I'm worthy of a child. No. 37, Nimetzinu Lamedim and double squiggly, Kil Adam Lavin. Person needs to understand. Shekol ma shemekabel, whatever we receive, ze be'etzem bechina shel tzedakah, mekut shebrichu, v'lo mekevan shemagia lo schar. None of us can walk around saying, I deserve. Everything that we have is a blessing. That's it. And as the Siva Shalom adds, V'haynu she'am Ravinu chashav zot l'tzaka l'kut shebrichu ala chesed shasai Moshe Maimi b'Hashem. Not only is having a child from Hashem, the ability to believe in Hashem is a gift from Hashem. We say this in Modim. In the Modim D'Rabbanan, the fact that I'm able to give thanks to you is from you. I can't do anything myself. It's all a gift from Hashem. And that, yes ma'am.
And the older that I personally get, the more I thank Hashem for the home that he put me in and for making it easier for me with how I grew up. Thank Hashem. It's not taken for granted.
Nothing should be taken for granted. That's it. And you see, really, the two levels are really interconnected. Because it's the Ribono Shel Olam leading us at every step of the way. And it's living in awareness. It's living a pitch that's all about Hashem. And then I can't take anything. Obviously, I have to feel good for what I've accomplished, but realize that it's a what? It's gifted. It's gifted. As my kids know, and I've said this over and over again, every time I finish a shir, it's a miracle. I say, Hodu Lashem ki tov ki lo lamchasto, continue to bless me. Because it's not about me. And I daven to be a conduit to be able to give over. Because I can't put this together. I'm not capable. It's a gift. Okay, my friends, let's do the final idea. Are we ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? Okay. So if we summarize what we've seen, Ve'emin b'Hashem, Avraham Avinu believed in Hashem. What was so great about that? Because it went against nature. It wasn't even a 3% chance. It was a negative percent chance. You believe in me because there is no natural rules of this way or that way. You know it's only the Ribono Shel Olam. That was the greatness of Avraham Avinu. Its ability to hold his hand, knowing that we're living in a world of the beyond. And I'll tell you, and again, the hostages in Iran and everything we're living through Ikvus of the Mashiach, nothing in the Jewish people, individually or collectively, makes sense. Now, here's the final idea. We're flipping it on its head. Divrei Yisrael and the Ol Moshe. The Zohar Kadosh that says, Kol yiyeh zarecha, this will be your children. Hivtiach HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'Avram shezaro v'zera zaro, 43 arrow. Ad sov kol adoros yumamin b'Hashem v'yisharu le'olam am Hashem. V'achshaveh lo staka. Avraham Avinu hechshiv haftacha mufla zu shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu kitztaka. Let's read the psukim differently. The pasuk previously says, Ko yezarecha, these will be your children. Vehemin ba'Hashem is not about Avraham Avinu. It's a reference to whom? The children. Hashem not only promises that you will have children, but he also promises, Vehemin ba'Hashem, that the Jewish people will be ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim, believers, children of believers. Vayachshaveha lo staka, that promise is what Avraham Avinu attributed to Hashem as a what? As a kindness. To be given that promise that your children will be able to hold on despite everything that happens around them, despite a Holocaust, despite an October 7th, despite, we know you're here, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. This is a gift. Let's end with one final idea, my friends. In 48, the Saba Kadisha Mislonim, he says, sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, Upamim yesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu rotzeh latei tov liyudi. Hashem wants to do goodness for us. Vatov kvar muchan avaro, and the goodness is already there. Ela sheino mekabelo adayim mipnei she'en lo atakli lekabel hatovahu. Sometimes Hashem just wants to give us. But if I don't have a receptacle to receive, it's like the ice cream in IKEA. You could put the money in, but unless you have the cup or the cone, forget it. Forget Where's Waldo, forget the ice cream in IKEA. You need to have a what? A receptacle. What's the receptacle? The bracket. Vakli, hu chizuk ha'amuna v'bitachon shel Yehudi b'Hashem yitbarach. Hashem says, you know what this kli is? Amunah. You hold on to me. You realize it's not about you. You realize it's coming from me. You're able to step back and not have that assurance. Well, of course this will happen. You recognize it's all a gift. And that is what Hashem tells Avraham Avinu. You believe in me, which means I'm giving you a bracha. Why? Because ve'emin ba'Hashem. Because you've created the kli. Your emunah is what has created my ability to bless you. Vayachshavel lo staka. HaKadosh Baruch Hu then says to Avraham Avinu, thank you for doing this favor for me. I so wanted to give to you, but I needed you to create the faith. Now that you've created it, I can give you. Thank you so much. And my friends, that's my bracha to all of us, that we should create this kli of emunah, being able to step beyond ourselves into the beyond. And that's the considerable conviction we need to have in order to be able to be a conduit to Hashem's brachos. Ad kan for today. And again, anyone who has yet to purchase this life-altering